Welcome, everyone. This is a great turnout. We're pretty excited about it. I'm Jean Cowan, and I will be the moderator this evening. I represent the League of Women Voters. In our organization, we've been around for over 100 years, but one of our primary aims in life is an educated electorate, and that's why we put on forums like this to help you get to know candidates and know what they stand for and go to the polls. We also encourage voter participation, but in an educated manner. So tonight we're going to focus on, mostly with the exception of the two Senate candidates up here, on nonpartisan races, because it's possible that at least one of those or more could be decided in the primary next month. And so that's what we focus on this time around. In the fall, we will probably do another forum for the candidates that are weeded out in the primary process, if you will. And I really want to thank Dave Price and his able assistant over here for their generosity. It's been so nice to be able to use this facility and the wonderful equipment. I would like to introduce Sheriff Curtis Landers, who is our retiring sheriff. With him tonight is Adam Shanks, who will be running for sheriff in the fall. Although that is a nonpartisan race, it is not included tonight because statutorily it needs to be voted upon in the fall. And so when I didn't find it on the list, I was surprised. Another nonpartisan race is for assessor. That individual is unopposed and he chose not to participate this evening. Are there any others who are running for an office but aren't on our program tonight that I should introduce? Okay, seeing none. One thing I would like to remind you of, and we'll do it one more time at the end, I hope, is that there are little cards up here in a basket about 411. Vote 411 is an online version of the League of Women Voters Voters Guide. And we spend quite a bit of time developing questions on a statewide basis for every race that's out there, and ask 3 questions of each of the candidates, and they have an option to respond to specifically designed questions, and those are now posted online. Vote 411 went live on the 15th, and it's a little different than the voters pamphlet, which comes from the state and is a different process whereby the candidate submits their 325 words, I believe it is. We also publish what's on Vote 411 in a voter's guide in a print form that we'll have out and about the community when we get them. We don't have them yet, but just wanted you to remember to take a look. If you're curious about anyone, you simply put in your name and address, and that will pull up all of the races that are going to be on your ballot. So it's another service of League of Women Voters. Okay, let's get started. This first hour, we're going to be talking to the candidates for Senate. And because their race is actually in the fall also, they are unopposed in their respective primaries. We just asked them to come this evening and introduce themselves a little bit to you. So I'm going to give each candidate 5 to 7 minutes to tell us whatever you would like to tell us about yourselves. And we do have timers sitting right there in front of you.
Oh, fantastic.
And they will hold up a yellow card when you are nearing the end of your time, probably a minute for the Senate candidates and 30 seconds for the district attorney candidates, and then a red card when your time is up. And in order to keep this moving, we do time things pretty closely. And if we have time at the end of the first hour, then we'll go back and offer some questions from the audience. And then the second hour, we will move to the county commissioner candidates. We do also, at the end of these presentations, have some short presentations for a couple of countywide ballot measures that are very interesting and people need to know a little bit about. So with that, we drew numbers, all two of you, and Dick Anderson will begin.
Great, thank you. I am Dick Anderson. I'm currently the state senator for Senate District 5, which is encompasses Lincoln County, the whole of Lincoln County, parts of Benton, Lane, Douglas, and Coos as we go down the coast. What I want to do is, one, thank the league for certainly having forums like this. I've had sessions before, and they're very fruitful, and appreciate the work that it takes. What I want to do is share with you what I've been working on for the last 4 years in the Senate, and then move right into what I'm going to continue for in 25, for the next 4 years, and kind of explain why. I have 4 main focus areas. One is housing, affordable, accessible housing at all levels, all types, to get in not only our district, but in the state of Oregon. If you haven't heard, we're in a crisis mode. We may not act like it's a crisis, and that's been a complaint that I've had, but I think of late, in the last year or 2 years, legislation has come on board with much more production oriented. So the way we're going to get out of this is by producing more housing. Another area that and by the way, I'm on the Senate Housing Committee. I'm vice chair of that committee, so I'm in a good position and have capitalized on that. The governor also appointed me to her production advisory council. So I've been working with the governor's office. Another area that I found very important and needed in our district is childcare. Childcare is, again, needs to be accessible and affordable, to all levels in our, again, Senate district as well as the state. We're described as a desert. We've got limited accessibility right now. It's either in-home care or the big facilities. If you'll notice on the coast, there aren't a lot of big facilities. The reason being is they don't pencil. The reason they don't pencil is because of the income of the residents in the area, but also the restrictions and the barriers that we put on them as a state. So I had a piece of legislation that did pass that goes into the middle ground. I got a pilot program going on those, and what I hope is that will free up some of the barriers to allow, at least in this district and rural areas, smaller up to 30 type of folks with less barriers and restrictions. The other area of my focus has been healthcare. All three healthcares: physical, mental, and oral. Again, if you look at this coast and a lot of the areas that we have, there's a shortage of those type of facilities, those type of workforce, those availability of those providers. A good example is behavioral health. We fortunately have now soon to be a substance abuse residential treatment facility in Newport through Samaritan. I got to tell you, I've been working on that for all 4 years to get state funding. Finally, I didn't go through the budget process last session in 23 because they nixed it. So I had to go outside, find money outside in the state, still in agencies, and got them close to $3 million. Again, there's a shortage. This time I went through the budget process in 24 and got them another $1.4 million that pretty much finishes. That will be the first behavioral health, substance abuse addiction program, residential, 16 beds in the county. Up till now, our folks have had to go to Baker City, Corvallis if they were lucky, and any kind of treatment on that, really you need your family support, and to have family, traveling just isn't practical. So that makes a big difference, I think, for coastal. We need a lot more of that. And finally, education. The overall education, though in our area, Lincoln County, certainly we are above average in statistics for the state of Oregon, but remember the state of Oregon is producing at a rate way below, almost in the high 40s when it comes to state averages of output, ratings, and we just need to do a better job of getting availability of subject matter, of funding, though we've funded teachers and school districts at a highest level this last biennium, but we've got to get the accountability, the standards, school days back in place. Those 4 areas is what I'm working on, and if you think about it, they are the linchpins for economic development. If you were going to move a business or any kind of business to the coast, what would be some of the first things you're going to ask? Is there housing for your workforce? Childcare, healthcare, education, those 4 elements have to be high standards in order to be attractive. And from what I found up and down the coast, serving it ever since really I've been in local government for the last, or earlier, 12 years, you need a shining, good example community to be attractive for economic development. And I think these are the kind of things that need to be done. And I'll continue to work on those, just so you know. I'm also on full Ways and Means, so I do see budgets and vote on those budgets, and I'm on the Natural Resource Subcommittee budgets as well. A good reminder, Lincoln County has been very fruitful, a recipient of state grants in the last 4 years. Representative Gomberg and I have worked hand in glove into getting a lot of dollars for housing. There hasn't been a community, a port, marina, I'm thinking of Depot Bay, what else? That hasn't either gotten direct funding for housing or the infrastructure to support housing. Even Oregon State, we got $6.5 million for housing with their expanded campus, to expand the campus and get student housing into here. So I think the 2 of us, the representative and I, have made a good effort to shine the light on Lincoln County and get state dollars back to where we are and need to be. So that's my plan for the next 4 years. I continue to work on those even through, the session now. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Slow on the uptick, huh?
You're giving me
All the
20 bucks.
Hello, my name is Jo Bodro. I'm a working mom, small business owner, former member of the Florence Area Chamber of Commerce, and a City of Florence City Councilor. I'm running for State Senate to fight for working families in our coastal communities. As a working mom, I know firsthand how difficult it is for families to make ends meet, to pay the bills each month, to buy groceries, afford childcare, your prescriptions, and have a roof over your head. Everyone should be able to afford these basic necessities. As a small business owner, I know what it means to build a business from the ground up. I'm the sole employee at my business, and I wish to expand to provide more employment opportunities in my area. I'm very aware of how decisions are made at the local and state level and how they can impact business owners and community members like you. I know how hard community members and business owners work in our communities. All our work and contributions for our taxes need to be honored. Our tax dollars are valuable assets to ourselves and our community at large. Our tax dollars should work for us. As city councilor, I know what it means to serve a community that is struggling to get by. Our infrastructure is outdated and crumbling around us, and our towns don't have the tax base to fix it on our own. We barely have enough money to fund our public safety budget. We've seen our economy drastically change. Housing costs are pricing families out of our area. The rising cost of healthcare is forcing our seniors to make tough decisions around their well-being. These challenges are real for me. I recently was going to be homeless myself, living in a car with a 3-month-old. I'm running for state senate because I believe our coastal communities and people, I believe in our coastal community and the people who live here. That's why I'm here today. I know what it means to put an honest day's work in, to look out for our neighbors as well. I'm running for state senate too because so many people in our community have been left behind, seen their jobs automated, shipped overseas, while the rich and powerful have raised prices and seen record profits on our backs. I'm running for state senate because I don't think our best days are behind us. I believe so much that we can create an economy where working people can get ahead, where housing is affordable and attainable, where parents can afford childcare and education, and seniors can afford their prescriptions and a great quality of life. I'll be honest, I'm not a politician. I may not be polished as others. I'm a regular person just like you today. I know the status quo is not working, and maybe we could use a little bit more regular people like us in Salem, fighting for the coast. I'm Joe Bodro. I'm running for state senate, and over the course of this campaign, I hope that I can earn your support. If you'd like to learn more about me, please follow me on my social media pages, Joe for Oregon, and also my website, joeforOregon.com.
Okay, we will move now to the district attorney race, and Jenna Wallace will begin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. As she indicated, my name is Jenna Wallace. I am currently the Chief Deputy District Attorney here in Lincoln County. I am a career prosecutor. I have been doing this since I was actually in law school. I clerked at Washington County District Attorney's Office up in Portland and fell in love with prosecution and criminal law. I knew pretty early on that that is what I wanted to do with my career, and I've been doing it for the past 10 years. I've worked in a couple different offices, but honestly, I've been loving Lincoln County as the best office so far. We have a terrific bench here in Lincoln County. The defense bar is very fun and to work with. But ultimately, I love being a prosecutor. I love what I get to do every day. I am focused on holding offenders accountable, recognizing when they maybe need resources in our community where we can help them and support them and get them back on their feet, but also not afraid to hold violent offenders accountable. I've argued for lengthy prison sentences when appropriate, but I've also agreed and argued for downward departures where we can safely supervise someone in the community, get them resources that they need to rehabilitate them, and hopefully we don't end up seeing them back in the criminal justice system again. And so I'm hopeful that I can earn your support as well, that you'll vote for me come May for the election. Thank you.
Catherine Benfield, with
Yes.
your 1 minute opening.
I'm watching this gentleman with the colored cards up here.
We're already on yellow.
Yeah, right? Not paying attention. Typical. Okay, don't give me the red yet. All right, we'll start again. We're used to watching numbers in the courtroom, right? It's called the FTR. It tells you when you're on point or when it's off the record. Catherine Benfield here, name on card. So I have grown up in Lincoln County. I have been practicing here for, it'll be 36 years in August. And I have, went to high school here. My family's grown up here. I'm a Lincoln County through and through, have been since I was about a month old. Started out my law practice. Criminal law has always been a centerpiece to what I've done. And I still do that to this day. And I've had, thank you, don't worry about it. I'm watching the cards. I appreciate what Ms. Wallace had to say. We've had some cases together. She's excellent, on point, and I don't disagree with what she has said here today, which is we need to be looking outside of just lock them up. That doesn't work. I think a lot of folks think put people in jail, put people in prison. You know what, when you do that, they get out, right? They come back to your community. So you have to figure out how to resolve and solve that problem if you can. Resources are a lot of the issue. So at the end of the day, ultimately, I believe there needs to be more resources, funding, and I thank you for saying that. As far as I'm hearing my bell ring already. Real quick, I'm really happy to hear that there's going to be a substance use disorder facility in Lincoln County, because I'm telling you right now, that is such a struggle.
Thank
That
you.
has
We're gonna
changed.
come back to that, I
Okay,
promise.
I spoke more than I should, as I do in the courtroom, and I'm seeing my red card, I'm gonna sit down. All right.
You can remain standing because the first question goes to you,
Oh, all right.
and that is, what qualities and experience make you the best candidate for district attorney?
Okay, well, am I timed on this?
3 minutes. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, just because I've done this a long time doesn't mean that you're fabulous, right? I'm not a prophet here. What I do is I'm diligently working for the safety and security of the community of which I am a part of with you. I have done not only criminal law, but I've also done civil practice through my 35-year career. And what that entails is plaintiff's attorney, and so on some level, I've kind of been a prosecutor, even though it's in the civil world. So ultimately, what you learn through that is communication skills, all right? I think a lot of what's missing, in my opinion, between agencies is a lack of communication and being put together. We have a lot of Lincoln City Police, Toledo Police, Newport Police, OSP, a lot of different agencies, and we need to bring that together. So one of my keys, if you will, is I'm a good communicator, a good speaker, and that's something that we desperately need, in my opinion, to run the office appropriately for you, for all of us in this community, to make sure everything is on a good path. So I'll say that I'll bring that to the table. The other thing is, I know this community well. Again, I've grown up here. Some of your faces I recognize, some I don't, but nonetheless, my heart and soul is in this county. I'll just say that. It has been, it always will be. And so for me, the issue is making sure, I'm watching you, making sure that we take care of each other, right? That's the point. We don't just want to be safe, we want to be progressive. And we want to make things better moving forward for everybody, for your children, for your grandchildren, for all of us. So it's not just one piece. And complacency, as some of you may know, is what sank the Titanic. And so at the end of the day, complacency and not advocating, not working, not talking, not addressing those in our community
Thank you.
is exactly what causes the issue. And I'm going to overtalk every time, but I'm seeing my red card. I'm going to sit down. Thank you, Jean.
Jay, I'm having a little trouble seeing your red card.
I
so
see
you
it.
might let me know. What qualities and experience do make you the best candidate for district attorney?
I think having prosecution experience is primarily what I will rest my answer on. I am the only candidate that has worked in a district attorney's office. I am the only candidate that has managed a team of prosecutors, a team of staff within the district attorney's office. I'm the only candidate that has sat with victims as they have told me what has happened to them. I'm the only candidate that has advocated for victims and advocated for community safety. Having that experience, knowing what it's like to work in a district attorney's office, to charge a case, to make decisions about filing or no filing, making decisions about how to resolve cases, that is experience that I have, and that, no disrespect to Miss Benfield, but she doesn't have that experience. She would be walking in, honestly, somewhat cold, without having that experience of what it's actually like to work in the office of a district attorney's office. I also have experience working in other district attorney's office. And I think that puts me in a very positive situation where I can take what worked and what didn't work in other offices that I've worked in, and I can implement them here in Lincoln County. Having the experience of actually working in the office, of managing prosecutors, of knowing exactly what it's like to do this job on a daily basis, what it takes to do this job, and the knowledge base of that, I think makes me have the qualities that are needed in a district attorney. I also am a very good communicator. I do this for a living. I stand up typically every other week, sometimes multiple times in a week, arguing cases to a jury. But I also have great community partnerships in this community, which are very, very important. I have very good relationships with law enforcement in this community. We have good relationships with treatment providers in our community, really working to address not only community safety, but also rehabilitation of people that enter into the criminal justice system. And so those are the reasons that I think that I would be a great district attorney here in Lincoln County.
Thank you. Our second question will begin with you, Jenna.
And I will stand back up.
Yeah. Try to make this easier.
That's fair.
What do you see as the three top challenges, let's try again, the three top challenges facing the district attorney's office, and how would you address them?
Great question. I think what everyone's number one probably is fentanyl use right now in Lincoln County, and honestly across Oregon and across the United States. We're seeing an alarming number of fentanyl overdose, not only within our offender population that are within the criminal justice system, but also people who are not within the criminal justice system. And with the recriminalization of drugs coming in September, that is going to be one of the biggest things that the district attorney's office, the court system, and honestly the criminal justice system in general is going to have to be addressing not only the fact that we're recriminalizing these drugs, but also figuring out how to best meet the needs of these people and doing it within the criminal justice system if that's where it ultimately ends up. I also think one of the, top issues within the district attorney's office is retention. It's very difficult to keep good district attorneys, deputy district attorneys in Lincoln County. I love this area. Me and my husband, I have two daughters, young daughters. One of them is in preschool in the area. And we love Newport. I think Newport, Lincoln City, Yachats, Waldport has such amazing things to offer. And I don't know if the district attorneys is marketing that as well as they could. And I think the way that the criminal justice system works really is by having good people in the district attorney's office who want to stay here in Lincoln County and retaining those people. And so that is one of the things that I think is really important moving forward. And that's one of the things I'd like to focus on is really finding good people to work in the district attorney's office and retaining them, making sure they stay here in our community. I only got two.
You're out of time.
Sorry.
It's okay. Those are my two.
We'll come back to you.
Okay.
The same question for you.
Okay,
I will
stand up, right,
repeat it.
three. Okay, three
What do you
things.
see as the three top challenges facing the district attorney's office, and how would you address them?
Okay, number one, in my opinion, is recruitment and retention of good prosecutors, good attorneys in the DA's office. I've been through probably 8 administrations in my career. I can't tell you the amount of turnover that's gone on in this administration, and the last one, I made a bad joke one time about holding a fishing net outside of the door of the courthouse, and I could swoop up DAs as they ran out, deputy DAs. And it was, it's funny but not funny, because that's really what's gone on. I mean, at least 10 that I can count over the last, as I wrote in my hand, 8 years. Fleeing. A lot of them were friends. It wasn't the money issue, it wasn't the workload issue, it was the work environment in the office. That needs to change. So recruitment, retention of good prosecutors, again, good attorneys. That's number one. Number two is things have changed so significantly. When I first started, you get a police report. That was it, maybe 3 or 4 pages. Now you have digital. Right, you've got body cams, in-car cams, you've got photo, it's just become a technological world in criminal law. And you have to figure out how to make that run smoothly. On the other side, we're all on a fence, I'm on this side, prosecutor over here, but we look at each other. You've got to streamline that. There's a real issue with that, getting discovery to defense, and that needs to be taken care of because it clogs. It gluts, it slows things down, you may move a case because of that. The other issue is this, and that is that it's also changed in terms of substance use disorder. That's the term we use now. So, it's not just alcohol. It used to be, I've gone through the alcohol phase, the methamphetamine phase, the cocaine, the heroin. Fentanyl is here. It's different, and you have to treat it differently. And we need to have more substance use providers, clinicians, to address that, because failing to address that makes all of us unsafe,
Thank you.
and it does.
You go ahead and stay up. We're giving you your
Learn that from
exercise here. The third question.
my steps.
What alternatives to incarceration would you like to see available into your area?
Bada boom,
There,
bada
that's
bing.
where you started.
Okay, so I heard this over here and I already said yay on this side. To me, treatment and crisis intervention, you know, we have a lack, and we do in this county. Resources typically are what make a lot of things not work, right? So mental health providers, alcohol and drug clinicians. I've talked to some folks who run a couple of the agencies in Newport that have offices in Toledo, in Lincoln City. One of them has, and they've worked with NPD, Newport Police Department, Toledo, OSP, where if they're dealing with somebody who has clearly a mental health crisis, and that happens, over half of the folks I represent have mental health issues. And rather than locking them up, jail is not a mental health facility, and it's not a treatment center. It's a jail. So they have an agreement that if that's going on, they'll call these folks, this is at Phoenix, they will come and they will assist with that mental health crisis. Rather than handcuffs, let us get them some treatment and some assistance. And they'll find you a bed, maybe a crisis bed, but at that moment it's going to address that issue. Same with substance use disorder. It is literally, makes me pull my hair out around here, because when we have clients, and there's a lot of them who have SUD, substance use disorder, where do they get to go? So as far as inpatient or residential treatment, not a lot around here. I'm happy to hear that there's something coming. Amen. Because typically they wait to get a bed date somewhere, a residential placement, sometimes for months. They sit in jail a lot of times waiting for that. Okay, again, jail is not treatment. I want to see more resources put into mental health clinicians, substance abuse disorder, because again, to me, that's really the underlying basis here. And having intervention up front, not 6 months later after somebody sat in jail for that length of time. Okay?
Thank you.
So, okay, thank you, Jean. I will sit down.
Janet, the question was, what alternatives to incarceration would you like to see available in your area?
I was thinking about that question, obviously, while Ms. Benfield was talking, and I truly think that out of all the counties that I've worked in, Lincoln County has one of the most robust treatment courts that I have seen. If you know what treatment courts are, they really are a place. We have drug court, we have hope court, we have mental health court, and we have family support court here in Lincoln County right now. And the courts have done an amazing job of really setting those courts up. And if you don't know what those are, they're essentially kind of a heightened supervision for people coming into the criminal justice system, where they are sentenced into a court, they are given a higher level of supervision, they come to court at a more frequent pace, and they really check in with the judge, with the prosecutor, with their defense attorney, and with treatment providers. And again, out of all the counties that I've worked in, Lincoln County's, I really think has the most successful situation that they have set up. And so when I'm thinking of what other alternatives to incarceration that this county needs, I agree full-heartedly with what Ms. Benfield has indicated. We do need additional supports for substance abuse, places for them to go to inpatient treatment in the community. We obviously have some, and we are using those to their fullest extent. But I do think what we currently have in Lincoln County through the treatment courts, I think is doing an excellent job at funneling people who would be presumptive prison or who would be going off for a prison sentence, and really recognizing what resources in the community we can provide them in real time to avoid sending them to prison when the case is being resolved. And so I know that doesn't quite answer the question entirely, but I have been very, very pleasantly surprised at what Lincoln County has set up to reduce the amount of people that are being sent to prison. And so that would be my answer.
There you go. I'll give each of you a minute for closing statements, and as we begin with Jenna, let's go with Kathy.
Okay.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. I've gone over my time each time, everybody, but I can keep it together here. So, a lot of people, first question is, why on earth do you want to do this, right? I mean, seriously, I've seen the dysfunction just go down a hill. I want to do everything and anything I can to make the office of the district attorney run as efficiently, as successfully as possible. I know what needs to be done, and I do. I want to serve my community, and as I've served my community for 35 years. So at the end of the day, there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of mess to clean up. This is not stepping into something that's fantastic, right? You're gonna put boots on, quite frankly, in my opinion, to go through this. But I'm willing to do that for y'all, and for myself, and for my community, for everybody sitting up here, for everybody in this county. So, I'm ready, I'm prepared, I'm able. Appreciate your vote for that.
Thank you.
As I said before, I am a career prosecutor. This is a job that I love. I have loved this job since I began it back in law school. And I will continue to do this job regardless of the outcome here today. Because I truly believe in the criminal justice system. I believe in the huge impact that I have in victims' life, in community safety's life, or in community safety in general, but also in people who come through the criminal justice system. I believe that I have learned through a lot of experience how a case should resolve, whether that be a violent offender being sentenced to prison, or whether that being someone who does have a substance use disorder and needs treatment within our community. And having, the skill set as well as the experience of being able to gauge what is the appropriate outcome of cases is exactly what you need in a district attorney at this point. And that is why I believe I am the best candidate for this position, and I would appreciate your support when the election comes. Thank you.
Thank you very much to these 4 individuals. I'm going to excuse them now, and we're going to go to a couple of presentations on ballot measures. We now have a online presenter, lovely picture of you, Robin, who is going to tell us a little bit about the countywide library district ballot measure that's on up in May. If you could.
Good evening. This is Robin Wedderts with the People for Lincoln County Libraries talking about ballot measure 21-222. This is not a new tax. This measure asks for a renewal of an existing levy. It does not ask for new taxes. We provide funding. The Lincoln County Library District has 2 sources of funding, a 25-cent permanent tax and the 9-cent local option levy, which is being voted on. The local option levy represents about 26.5% of district funding. Very important to the budget, especially for smaller libraries. Library reimbursement comprises a significant portion of local library budgets. For the cities of Waldport and Siletz, which lie within the library district, district funds comprise the majority of their library budgets, 70% for Waldport and 96% for Siletz. These funds pay for several main services, and these include the courier service, courier delivery service that allows all county residences to reserve books from any of the libraries within Lincoln or Tillamook County and have them delivered to their closest public library. Software. The OCLC software, which supports cataloging and interlibrary loan services for all county libraries. Support. Cataloging and technical support for all county libraries. And access. District reimbursement to county libraries, which allows all district residences to receive free library services and resources from any library within the county. This is a view of the future tax revenue. This measure will renew the expiring local option tax. Approval of this measure continues providing funding at its present level for the Lincoln County Library District and the funding it provides to libraries in Lincoln City, Newport, Siletz, Toledo, and Waldport. The estimated tax for this measure is an estimate only and is based on the best information available from the county assessor at the time of the estimate. As you can see, in the 2025 to 26 year, this is $403,491. And I have left all these here for you to review, but I won't bore you with the details. This is a really important levy. It's provided for services for Lincoln County and should continue to do so. Thank you for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.
We appreciate you sharing this information with us, and Robin is also our behind-the-scenes technical person who's making this virtually available to the community today. So, thank you for your work.
My honor.
The next levy, or the measure we wanted to talk about, was the bond request for the community college's trades education facility. We'll turn it over to Dave Price.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Dave Price. I'm the Vice President for Engagement here at the college. Thanks to Chris Rogers, our Facilities Director, for helping make this possible, and thanks to Robin on the other end for helping that as well. We're just so thrilled to have so many of you here. I think 2 years ago, Gene and I were talking, this room was half full. We've learned a lesson. 2 years from now, we'll be in the comments. So thank you for your patience. Appreciate that. So very quickly, is that going to work? Oh, it is. Good. I'm here to talk about a trades education measure that is appearing on your ballot. It is measure 21-224, and it is, let's see, thank you. It's about the OCAT. It is the Oregon Coast Advanced Technology and Trade Center. It is a center that we first drafted plans for in 2017. So you've probably seen them. We were at the time still wrapping up our independent accreditation. We were the last community college in the state of Oregon to achieve independence. It was something that our new president, when she was hired, Lodi's 10 years ago, was tasked with doing. We accomplished that in February of 2020, and at which point we dusted off our plans and brought them back out and thought, when is a good time? And about a month later, we put them right back on the shelf and said, let's deal with this pandemic thing first. That's why if you've seen this back in 2017, you're wondering, where have you been? That's briefly what that's about. So it's not a new idea. In the least for us, nor do we believe that that the lack of trades education is a new thing. But there are new angles on this and new studies. This was just from this last summer from Stanford. Over half of U.S. jobs now require more than a high school diploma, but less than a 4-year degree. And that is true certainly of many of the skilled trade sectors. This is one of our welders in Toledo. This ballot, which is like the one we just heard about for the library district, is a continuation levy. What we're talking about here is continuing a bond that voters approved, thank you very much, in 2004 to build the building you're sitting in and our other facilities. You will be able to burn that mortgage on June 30th of 2025, and this would begin the next day on July 1st at the same level that you're paying next year, which we estimate to be right at 21 cents. It would do two things. It would build roughly this building, and this is planned for, you can't see it in this image, but there's a road that goes around the back of this building where we deliver to our York College store and the books come in and things like that. It's just past that. That's where that is located. And then the protection and modernization of existing facilities throughout. 20 years on the coast, I've lived here 28. There's some wear and tear on all this after a while. This is a flexible trades education space. We've had lots of images out there. You may have seen polished concrete floors, everything in the joint on wheels, that kind of thing. And we'll look at a web page here that talks a little bit about what might be inside the building. This was originally an internal document as we worked on it, but we wanted to be transparent and we opened it up to the community. It's at oregoncoast.edu/OCAT, OCATT. You're welcome to visit it. If you click on any one of these different programs, and there are 14 of them presently, and this number will probably grow, you'll see that a few things open up. Description of each program, and a list of, this is germane to the conversation, of grants and programs and funding that would help spool the program up, because there's quite a rubric to starting a program. And what's crucial, what my president would want me to tell you is, under consideration is absolutely crucial for anything we talk about at the college, whether or not it involves a new building, because no program can be launched or promised to the community until it is approved by your accrediting agency, which for Oregon Coast Community College, like the University of Oregon or any other school here, is the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. So I want to underscore that point. Very briefly, this is a snapshot of where, I think you can still see this, we are at the bottom of this list. What is this list? This is a list that shows you two things. We just heard a description of a permanent rate. Every community college in Oregon has a permanent rate. Ours is 17.57 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. They range from us all the way to $1.22 and change at Treasure Valley. And most community colleges, not all, but most are currently paying for buildings. And so they've issued capital bonds, as we have. Our capital bond rate last year was 21.45 cents per thousand. Again, it's estimated to be right at about 21 flat next year. It's been dropping. It started, when voters approved it, it was 34 cents per thousand. So as property values have grown, our rate, our millage has declined. And so that's where that is. And I think that I have to be very careful. I used to say different things before we filed our paperwork, and I was able to advocate, and now I'm not advocating. And so that's why I'm reading, so forgive me. The college's capital construction bond tax rate is estimated to remain at the current 21 cents per thousand of assessed property value if the proposed bond measure passes. That's again because the debt is retiring. We do have an $8 million match. I can tell you the sad story about what happened to our $8 million match when we tried to do this a year ago, along with 4 other colleges. But we have that money back. Thank you to our legislators. The college would receive an $8 million state match grant if the proposed bond measure passes. Matching funds are from the legislature and can only be applied to the cost of construction of the trades education facility. The college would not receive the matching grant if the proposed bond measure does not pass. So if the proposed bond measure does pass, the funds would be used to do a few key things. First, of course, construct a new trades education facility on land the college already owns right there. Repair and update existing buildings, including roofs, HVAC system controls, plus modernizing classrooms and technology. For one thing, I'd like a lot more of these. Increase safety and security by updating security camera systems with modern versions. If you've entered Newport High School in the last couple of years, and you entered Newport High School 10 years ago, much less 20 years ago, it's a different experience today. Our experience hasn't changed. The world we live in has. That is one of the targets that we set when we drafted this proposal. So what is this? This is a $33.165 million proposed bond measure to be repaid over 21 years. The bond tax rate is estimated not to increase because existing bonds are retiring in 2025. The estimated bond tax rate would remain at that 21 cents per thousand assessed property value. If the measure does not pass, the proposed projects and services will not be completed as planned, and the proposed renewal of the 21 cents per thousand of assessed value levy would not be assessed to you. The current 21 cents per 1,000 assessed value will expire on June 30th of 2025 with a no vote. Just a quick snapshot of assessed value. We have a lot of county people in the building who probably know this website, but I was fascinated by this, propertyweb.co.lincoln.or.us. The assessor has a really robust site. You can look up your house, you can look up your neighbor's house, the house down the street, find out exactly what its real market value estimate is, and then what its assessed value is, and also what they paid in property taxes. We picked a home that was right around the median. The median had been, it's falling a little bit, but it had been around $497,000 in January. This was close at $526,50 in terms of real market value. The assessed on that property was about 34% of that, or $180,000. So the impact of our current levy that we have today is 72.7 cents per week, or $37.80 per year. Keep that there. And finally, if this wasn't riveting enough, my president is going to say the same thing. She's been saying it. She was here Tuesday night. She was in Toledo a week ago. A week from now, we're going to be, well, almost a week from now, we're going to be in Walport, and we will be in Lincoln City on the 30th. Dr. Reising will be there, along with some members of the Friends of Oregon Coast Community College PAC, chaired by Patrick O'Connor. We're in the Patrick O'Connor Community Room, so he's still got a dog in the fight. And we've also been doing outreach to other places. I got the opportunity to speak to Newport Rotary today, Walport City Council last week, et cetera, et cetera. If you have an organization or a club that hasn't heard from us, we'd be happy to come and talk to you. And with that, I'd be happy to field any questions or exit the floor.
I'm going to take the prerogative of throwing out a question. Can you give us an idea of what training programs might be included in a new facility?
Yes, that was the
Did I miss that?
slide with the 14 images. There's a variety of them. I can tell you that they might, certainly we would start with more welding. We've expanded our Toledo site to 18 bays. The Toledo site is not closing. It is not being in any way curtailed. It was thriving as of last Tuesday, I can tell you. It was hard to hear the president. But in addition to that, there's additional marine welding we want to do. Currently on the site, one thing we cannot do, there is no, there's space to do booths. Everything is in a booth. What we don't do is fabrication. We don't have a large enough space to bring a boat in, a roll-up door, and work on it. That we would have the ability to do. And then there's mechatronics. There is a variety of different other things. We had a picture of a conveyor belt. You may say, conveyor belts? Ask the folks at Georgia Pacific or Pacific Seafood how important conveyor belts are and conveyor belt repair are in Lincoln County. I was blown away by it. And so there's that. And of course, pre-apprenticeship trades education. A shout out to IBEW and to the plumbers and steam fitters. They've been working with us on building a pre-apprenticeship trades program that will lean heavily on this. That's a program, by the way, we don't intend to wait for this building. We intend to spool that up with partners throughout the county. Transportation is going to be a bit of a challenge, but you'll see that come this fall. Again, it's been in the works since about 2017.
I apologize. I know I was doing a few more notes than I should have been, but that's the kind of questions that come out from people looking at this. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We don't have much time for questions, but I would like our two Senate candidates to come back up for just a minute, and I have one that I would like to share with them. The question has been raised about the walkouts in the last session and the delay in passing legislation. And so I would appreciate you both giving your thoughts on that situation. Let's start with Senator Anderson.
I'd be glad to. How much time do you want?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. First, everybody assumes is going to know about walkouts or the strategy that has been used over the years, decades, by both parties in both chambers in Salem. We had another walkout in '23 where 10 senators happened to be Republican and independent withheld the quorum. And what that means is there weren't enough senators on the floor to actually do business as withholding. They knew, and by the way, I was not one of them. There were 3 two Republicans, three Republicans that didn't walk. So just to put that straight, there was state measure prior that voters voted on and drew it up themselves. It said, in essence, if you walk more than 10 days, or if you're absent from the floor with unexcused for more than 10 days, you're not able to run again in your seat. So that's been standing, it wasn't tested at the time, all this stuff. These gentlemen and ladies chose to challenge it for their own motives and things that they didn't like. And that has followed through. The court cases have come through and upheld the measure. So these 10 are not able to run again, either this year or half of them or so are in 26 when their term expires. They'll be able to run for other offices, but not these. So I don't know what the details, or
I think that'll do it.
would that do it? Can you explain?
I mean, if you want to state your personal position on it very briefly, I think you've got a short time.
Sure. As I said, I did not walk. I supported those who did. I think everybody has to go with their own feeling, measure. I didn't happen to agree with them, but yet, they were very understanding of me not walking. Part of it, as I've said in jest at times, sometime an adult has to be in the room. I chose to be that person. I was on the floor to help negotiate, to bring them back earlier. I'm also co-chair of the Senate Conduct Committee. So there were good reasons why I shouldn't be out walking and go from there. Thank you.
Your comments on this situation, Joe?
Hello, my name is Joe, and I feel deeply passionate about communicating with people, even if you have a problem with somebody, and having a good code of conduct and good rapport with people who you agree and don't agree with is really important. I believe that as elected officials that serve our communities, that it is vital for our participation. And I don't believe that walking out is the best way to get your point across. There will be some really hard conversations and difficult things to say to one another, and by just leaving the room is not productive. So I don't think that is a good solution and a strategy to find solutions. I'm disappointed that fellow people who are elected officials would choose that route, and I hope that it never happens again. And I am totally down and excited to have conversations and find solutions, even when it hurts.
Thank you. Time doesn't permit us to go through all of the details of the question and some of the other questions that were presented. I think one that most people in the room would like your opinion on, or your position on, very briefly: pro-choice, anti-abortion, pro-abortion, availability. I'm not going to get specific on the wording. Would you like to state your opinions on that? Joe, why don't we start with you?
Sure. My body, my choice. It's as simple as that. It is so important to be able to have control over yourself and have good communication with your physician. And if you're in a position where you need to have an abortion or have a conversation about that, you should be able to have that in a safe environment. You should not be worried about dying in back alleys. My generation has been so lucky and blessed that generations before us, women have paved the path for where we're at, and it's getting repealed. And it's so important to recognize the work that has done generations before us, as well as voting, just generally voting. And I recently had a baby, and I am so thrilled to be a mom, and it is such a wonderful thing. I have so much more vitality for life now that I have her in my life, and I want to continue that legacy that the women before me have done. I don't need anybody in my vagina.
Nor do I need. And it's a serious matter, and certainly I find it interesting that in Oregon, it's not a problem. It's not an issue. It's not going to change. We've protected it. So I find that question, too kind of what I call a grenade throwing issue in this state, because it's not going to change, but it gets the hair on the back of the neck of a lot of Republicans. And it's a huge campaign issue that they like to throw. I happen to agree that I like the idea of a woman having her own decision and choice, but there are points and opportunities that I am concerned about, and that's abortions at the third trimester. I'm a little troubled by that. So there's still work that needs to be done, or clarification. But in general, for me personally, it's none of my business. I should be out of it, and I don't think it's a government issue either, and shouldn't be. And in Oregon, it isn't and won't be.
Thank you. So we will begin, and I hope people don't mind if I call you by your first names. It's much quicker.
I've been called worse.
Okay, I'm going with the names on there. And Don Gomez, we're going to begin with you, please. Opening statement, 1 minute.
Well, first I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. This is fantastic, and thanks to all of you for being here, and that goes out to the folks watching remotely. My name's Don Gomez, and I'm running to be your next county commissioner. I'm the founder and publisher at Stern Castle Publishing, which is a Newport-based independent publisher of fiction, folklore, poetry, memoir, and biography. Our mission at Stern Castle is to expand diversity, equity, and inclusion in the literary landscape, and of course to preserve the rich literary legacy of the Oregon coast. I'm also a Marine Corps veteran, and I feel that that's the experience that I bring to the table that's most relevant to the job of the commissioner. When I was in the Marines, I served as a financial analyst, ensuring that our units were mission ready by preventing the fraud, waste, and abuse of taxpayer funds. During my time in the Marines, I managed a $363 million budget, and for this work, I was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, so I have proven effective experience in governmental accounting, budget preparation, and auditing, and I would be honored during your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Ty Halbert. 1 minute opening statement.
Trying to get used to the timers. Hi, good morning or evening. Yeah, super nervous. This is why I learned why we shake hands at the beginning, because by the time you get to this point, it's all sweaty and uncomfortable. So I'll be honest. I'm Ty Holbrook. I'm running for a commissioner or C2. I'm a Lincoln County resident. I currently work as a crisis worker, so I respond to a lot of mental health. So issues, whether it's drug-induced or if it's age-related. Prior to that, I worked for child welfare, and that's how I really got to work with a lot of our community partners, whether it's law enforcement, DA's office, and then also the people who are with the drug and alcohol treatment teams. I am also super excited about C-STAR's opening, and yeah, I'm trying to be open, and if people have questions, feel free to approach me later and just ask me.
Great. We'll have some questions. Rick, you're number 3.
Thank you, Jane. My name is Rick Beasley. In my life, I have been a soldier, a logger, and a journalist, but now I'm running for county commission. En route to college, I turned at the big derelict boat. And I think that is a fitting metaphor for Lincoln County's troubled economy, which I would very much like to talk about tonight. The 3-member county commission is supposed to span the divide between 46,000 rural and urban residents who share the costs of county government but are seeing fewer benefits for their tax dollars. And with a cynical bluster of career politicians who seem to emerge only at election time, the current dynamic has resulted in foot dragging and chaos on central fronts such as decent housing, rural sprawl, the decline of tourism, environmental threats, public safety, and other self-inflicted wounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan.
Oh. I'd be a terrible accountant. I can't count here.
You're number 4.
Ranger Ryan, nice to see everybody. I'm blessed to be the dad of 2 great freshmen at Newport High School. Go Cubs. I see Mark Miranda in the back. He's a big Cubs booster. I spend my life working on forest health and keeping our oceans, rivers, and estuaries clean. And I'm running to push through economic development that's environmentally sensitive and economically successful. I think our county's on the cusp of a new chapter, and a new chapter involving all sorts of exciting things. And I think now is the time. I see an opportunity for electrified county transit, water storage for rural residents who are struggling during drought-filled summers. I got on board with Mom's Demand as a favorite candidate, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Claire Hall. I'm a native Oregonian. I've called this gorgeous county home for the last 38 years, and for the last 20 years, I have been honored to serve you as one of your county commissioners. My love for this county and its people has only grown over the decades. I think it's important that I point out I'm the only candidate up here who has actually done this job, fully understands it, and won't need on-the-job training. I've done it, and I've done it well. My experience, my knowledge, and my passion for this work has not waned. It continues to grow. Our county has experienced some more extraordinary challenges in the past several years. I've been a key player in helping with the recovery from both the pandemic and the Echo Mountain fire. We have many projects under development or soon to be started, and I believe my leadership is still necessary. I thank you for your time. I humbly ask for your vote.
All right, we have 3 questions for you here, and I think we'll begin with Ryan for the first question. What personal characteristics set you apart from the others in this race that will enable you to be an effective member of the Board of Commissioners?
Well, we want everyone to be an individual and bring their best game forward, of course. So everyone's going to have to be a different but successful candidate. I guess I'm the weeds, trees, and ATVs guy. So I guess I got that nailed. I do feel as a working parent, like Joe is saying, I think working parents need more representation in government because we're the ones affected by the policies that are made at boards of commission around Oregon's 36 counties. I think that the tax levying and the general affordability thing, I understand that. That's my everyday reality. And honestly, I'm struggling to afford to live here. I think a lot of people are in that boat, but help is on the way. There's lots of things we can do. I like the assessor. I think Joe Davidson's a wonderful guy. He's also a parent and a local advocate for our county. I think that We have a lot of opportunities to leverage state and federal funds to improve opportunities here to build larger amounts of workforce housing. Working on that at the city. I was at Kurt Schrader's desk when he gave us $60 million for a regional dam. And if you think at a county level, the new Big Creek Dam is a regional dam. The economic lifeblood of the city and the county are tied to that project. No water, no development, no water, no swimming pool. I mean, it all comes back to water. You gotta have water. We gotta look at ways to switch forestry around to where we get more timber revenue from that, and that's a huge priority for me. I think we're right on the opportunity. There's an opportunity there to get small woodlot owners to get more for their timber, but do it in a more environmentally responsible way that's better for our fishery. Clean our rivers more, leveraging local and state funds. There's just so many things that we can do to improve the quality of life for everybody. I'd like to see a farm cooperative of some kind being made too. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, we'll go next to Rick. And to repeat the question, what personal characteristics set you apart from the others in this race that will enable you to be an effective member of the Board of Commissioners?
With all due respect to our DA in the room, is Catherine Benfield still here so she could answer that question for me? Thank you. You do such a great job at answering the questions. As a newspaper publisher for 30 years, I acquired a thorough understanding of the sobering trials facing our local governments. I have used those insights during my growing record of public service. Elected to a cash-strapped road district, I led a winning war on potholes, then served on a city committee that saved my hometown thousands of dollars. On the budget committee, I opposed sweetheart deals and pet projects. Voted to the city council, I oversee emergency planning, I advocate for transparency, and serve as envoy for watershed issues. And despite what people say, my opponent is not alone in being qualified to handle the, quote, myriad complex issues that would stultify ordinary people like us. I can do it. I believe any of the challengers here could do it better. So, thank you.
Thank you. I will go next to you. And again, the question is, what personal characteristics set you apart from others in this race that will enable you to be an effective member of the Board of Commissioners?
So, as I go around and I talk with people across the county, there's times when, like, I'll bring up something and they'll ask about something and I'll remember, I did an interview the other day, and after the recorded interview was done, we started talking about finances, and I was like, oh yeah, I used to work in finances, because when I was 18, 19, I got a job as a stockbroker. So I've been in charge of, big money. When I got back from Iraq, I got back into finances and I worked with a financial advisor firm. So I've been registered with the SEC twice, received Series 7, Series 63, and also I'm the veteran who forgot to mention that they were veterans, so I'm the kind of guy that drives a fuel truck through Iraq. And then, so that's what I did. As far as for other personal qualities, so I've been around finances, I've proven myself with SEC without any type of, getting in trouble or marks against my licenses. That's certainly not anything I'm involved with now, just, regular retirement accounts. I'm just not a part of that industry anymore. I really have been enjoying just helping people as a social worker, just here in the community. It's a bond that I've been enjoying. It's a connection. It's great to see that there has been some, growth as far as for housing for our low income to no income individuals. But I think that we also need to focus on housing for people who do have jobs and working class. The majority of my coworkers at the county have multiple jobs and still struggle, or I can't think of how many people I know that work here within Lincoln County but then have to drive out of county because that's where they can afford to live. So I've been a landlord since 2010, bought a duplex years ago, so I think that's another quality that I have is understanding management on that side, and I'm also someone who very much thinks outside the box. I do outside thinking, it's what I do naturally, so thank you.
Thank you. Claire, I'll have you go next. Whoop. Let's
Okay.
go Claire and then Don.
Well, as I said up front, I'm the only candidate who's actually done this job. I've done it for 20 years, and I believe my experience, the relationships I've built, the knowledge I've gained will be invaluable in the next 4 years. I can't tell you a lot more about me in just a couple of minutes, but again, I want to encourage you to visit my website, voteclairehall.com. You've placed me in this position of trust and responsibility 5 times, and I hope I have earned your trust for 1 more term. I know how to bring people to the table. One of the essential roles for a commissioner is to be a convener and bringing people together from differing viewpoints often to work together on challenges and opportunities. I know how to find a path forward. I know how to listen. I deeply research the subjects that I work on. You know, Abraham Lincoln said when he was running for re-election in 1864, in the middle of the Civil War, that it's best not to swap horses in the middle of the stream. With my leadership, we're not only going to get to the other side in the next 4 years, but we'll have a true solid footing. Thank you.
Don, one more time, I will repeat the question. What personal characteristics, maybe I will. What personal characteristics set you apart from others in the race that will enable you to be an effective member of the Board of Commissioners?
Thank you, Gene. As a Marine Corps veteran, you can count on the fact that I'm gonna confront tough issues head on. There's several big ones that I can think of that I'd like to tackle as your next county commissioner, and that's increasing our access to affordable housing. That's improving our access to specialist health care by building some housing for those healthcare workers to live in, enhancing our infrastructure to facilitate those first 2 goals, and putting an emphasis on protecting our environment while we look at this growth, right? I'm a big proponent of what's called smart growth. You can learn more about that on the Environmental Protection Agency's website, but it has a few key tenets that are basically revolve around building communities that fit the character of the existing community, creating infill, and of course creating walkable communities. Excuse me. So those are 4 of the big ones, but there's an elephant in the room, and that's the fact that many people in our unincorporated communities feel that our current Board of Commissioners are out of touch, and I want to restore that collaboration and have those people feel like they're a part of the conversation and that they have equitable governance. And with your support, I'd like to make all these things happen in a lot less time than 20 years, because I don't need any on-the-job training. Thank you.
Okay, as I move to question number 2, we'll begin with Ty this time. What do you see as the 3 most pressing challenges facing the county, and how would you address them if elected?
Sorry, I'm using my phone instead of paper, but, so the 3 biggest challenges that I see are really affecting our community is housing, being one. And again, that's going back to housing for all of us. There's people who have professional jobs. Let's say that the measure does get passed here for the college, and we're able to add more trades jobs. They still need a place to live when they get home from work. So I think it's not just the low-income housing and the no-income housing, but also housing for all of us. And then we need to do more to support our first responders. That's police, fire, paramedics. That's huge. There's fire trucks that are being used.
Can you just speak up a little bit?
Yeah, of course, sorry. There's fire trucks that are being used that are older than me, and they're constantly getting broke down and worked on. And fire trucks, just like cars, are getting more expensive with every year. So, the sooner that we get to replacing and repairing the things, the cheaper it is overall for us as a community. And then the third item that I think is really pressing is just fiscal responsibility. And with that, I'm saying that again, some things are just gonna be more expensive. I know the fire truck's gonna be more expensive. I know that the law enforcement equipment is gonna be more expensive if we put it off. When we're talking about potholes and roads, it's cheaper to fix it when it's a pothole than when it's the highway going into the ocean. You know, I've never worked in the roads department, but, you know, I can guess that much as someone who's had to deal with home repairs. I'm also the candidate who, you know, and I certainly don't know where everybody lives, but, you know, I do live in the unincorporated area. I live in Waldport. You know, I talk with people every day. This is my neighbors. The things that, the decisions that are made affect me and my neighbors and community. I did set up a Lincoln City PO box, but I'm open. Thank you.
Go next to Claire. What do you see as the three most pressing challenges facing the county, and how will you address them?
The first two are interconnected, housing and homelessness. The third that I want to talk about is quality of life. First, I think it's important to be aware that in fact we have built, saved, preserved more than 450 units of housing in this county over the past 4 to 5 years. These developments were funded in large part with funding that funneled through the State Housing Council, which I chair. And it's happening in every part of the county. Now, at the same time, I've been laser focused on housing. I've also been focused on homelessness. I secured a $1 million planning grant that has allowed us to develop a comprehensive plan, new resources, new service connections, and we're already making a measurable impact on homelessness. You know, beyond the individual humanitarian issue, I think homelessness is sort of the canary in the coal mine. It tells us, often visibly, how our most vulnerable citizens are doing. And as far as I'm concerned, helping everyone thrive helps the community. By quality of life, I mean the broad range of things people need, not just to survive, but to thrive. This includes a healthy environment, access to essential needs, and a sense of financial stability. It also includes being a community that is accepting and welcoming to all. Some of these things are beyond the scope of county government, but I am a partner with the community in many efforts in this direction, and that will continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, you're up next. What do you see as the three most pressing challenges, and how do we address them?
Well, I already gave you 5. But I think that far and away, the housing issue is the biggest issue here in the county. And I see a number of ways that we can work on that, because I think moving towards housing stability is going to be what really enables us to confront some of these other problems. And so some of the ways that I see us being able to tackle that problem is to engender more interlocal agreements with developers, especially affordable housing developers. Oregon has a number of them, and also working with nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity of Lincoln County to get some of this housing built. Now, on my website, votedongomez.com, I've created a green paper. And if you know what a green paper is, if you're an academic, it's kind of a white paper in the planning stages. So it's a work in progress. But what I've been doing is going through the county tax lot map, and I've identified dozens of lots that the county owns that are zoned residential or could have a conditional use that allows for housing that are also sitting vacant. And I think it's a travesty that our county is sitting here in the real estate business when we have a housing crisis. And I think we need to get some of that land over to some of these developers so that we can start to confront our housing crisis effectively. Now, Governor Kotek's office has identified that over the next 20 years, Oregon needs to build 440,000 additional housing units just to stay on pace with demand. And that's going to take us also helping out to meet those numbers. Now, I don't think that anybody's looking at little old Lincoln County to build the 12,000 houses that it would split up to be, if you looked at all of Oregon's 36 counties. But if we're going to do our part to solve this housing crisis, We need to get to work. And I think that there's a number of ways that we confront that. I'd also like to talk more about move-over housing for seniors because we have a large aging population, and there's a number of ways that we can help those people save money out of their retirement savings and also create more housing for young families. Thank you.
Thank you. You need me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good, thank you. My top 3 items. First of all, let me say this, that my opponent, and I consider Claire to be my opponent in this race, cited heartbreaking criticism on my part. But the fact is that our county commission lives in a 3-0 echo chamber right now, where they always agree on things. And that's one of the reasons that we're in the fix that we're in. My first area that I'm concerned about is the mishandling of government assets. And the incumbent, while she paints a pretty picture of the way things are right now, she has to share in the blame for mismanaging these key assets, such as the tourism industry, which has been left vilified and struggling in the wake of the county's terrible oversight, which resulted in a huge backlash. It took 8 years from the time that people started complaining about the mega mansions that the county had issued permits on to actually come up with a problem that threw the baby out with the bathwater. And as a result of this, we are hemorrhaging jobs in this county. My opponent led with columns in the newspapers and the social media commentary that sparked this backlash. So I will work to restore that industry. I do what I can to make sure that the tourist industry remains viable in Lincoln County. It should be invisible. That's my feeling about tourism, and with good management, it can be. The need for decent workforce housing. We cannot parade the increase in government housing, $66 million right now, this year, as an accomplishment, because it leaves behind workers. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Dean, do you need a break? Doing all right?
No, we're good.
All right.
All right. What do you see as the 3 most
See if I
pressing
can count to
challenges?
3. So I think public safety is one of them, maybe not the top, but I think public safety is directly tied to neighborhood livability and quality of life. I know my kids I have teenage daughters, I'm concerned about their safety. I'm concerned in my professional role, I deal with a lot of drug addicted transients. And while there are lots of great county services for them, if they choose to seek those services, everyone's an individual with free will, and they choose not to seek those services sometimes, and that leads them to living on public lands and having a pretty major environmental footprint. You'd be pretty surprised if you see some of these dump sites around the county that the road department, which Tyrone spoke to, they have 5 FTEs, they're struggling, but they're doing their best. And I'm very excited because the new county weed guy, Scott Schmale, is amazing. I went to the Weed Management Association with him. He's on board to make our roadsides and rights of way just so much better and so much more manageable. I think he's a wonderful employee of the county. I think affordability leads back to workforce housing. And to someone else's point, half the people that I work with at the park commute from Marion, Polk, other counties, Benton, 100-mile commutes, not the firecracker sustainability policy that we want. So we got to figure out ways to get them to shorten those commutes to improve their own quality of life and spend more time with their kids. I think partnering with the right developer that doesn't want the farm bought, that can deal with a small abatement for taxes, but not unreasonable. We're a forestry, fisheries, and farms county, and I want to find ways as a commissioner to help all those industries and then form and reinvigorate the ecotourism opportunities that the South Coast is now enjoying and bring in new tour operators to Lincoln County to help residents and visitors understand the importance of their connection with nature and how that can stimulate our economy. Thank you.
the third question, we're going to begin with Claire. Are there areas where the Board of Commissioners could be more effective, and how would you help make that happen?
Well, that's a pretty broad question. I think we're always looking for opportunities to partner. Commissioner Jacobson right now is working with the Sletch tribe on what potentially could be a huge climate grant. We have partnered with the educational institutions, our libraries, community groups, nonprofits, individuals. I think just continuing constant outreach. It's not something that you get so far and then you stop. It's a continual process.
Thank you. Don, would you like to take that question?
Yes. So, because I'm running, I must see a number of ways that our county commissioners can be more effective. And, you know, the main way that they could be more effective is helping to reverse the fact that our cost of living continues to go up while the quality of life continues to go down, right? We've heard my opponent, the incumbent, talk about homelessness. We've heard her talk about our housing stability, and the truth is, she's served as the commissioner every day of the last 20 years and hasn't tackled those problems yet. So I believe that what we need to be doing is putting more of an emphasis on action, right? It's great to have the meetings and talk about what we're gonna do, but the truth is these problems are only increasing, they're only growing. And if we don't do more now, we might not be able to get our arms around them. So we need people with the energy who are committed to making a difference in our communities. And that's just, that's the way it is. That's the way our Board of Commissioners is going to be effective in improving our quality of life and bringing those costs of living back down.
Thank you. Rick, to you, where are areas the board could be more effective, and how would you make it happen?
Well, my experience in government, actually my career as a journalist, the 50-year span of my career, but most recently as a city councilor, as a budget committee member, my experience has been as a disruptor. I question things, I dig deep. I want to know about efficiencies and economies so that we can transfer the wealth of our county back to taxpayers in the form of benefits that have been lost or squandered. And I think another area that's very important that would really improve the commission's role, and that's the importance of transparent finances. Finances first is a pledge that I make to people that I will attempt to ease the burden on you, taxpayers, the taxpayer, by shoring up neglected revenue streams and scrutinizing every dime in the $250 million budget for its benefit to residents. And I will be forthcoming about revenue streams. You have the right to know how your money is spent, and I'll work to that end. Thank you.
Ryan, the question goes to you.
Alrighty. Well, I think beer at meetings would be a good start. Or kombucha if that's your thing. Or maybe green tea, my favorite. Be seen in the community. I know I've been on the council for 6 years. I try to go to as many public meetings as I can in light of my extravagant salary. Town halls in all municipalities. You know, out in East County, there's great bluegrass get-togethers out there in Logston. I've been to a few of those. It's amazing. Bob Llewellyn, if you know him, amazing musician. Get out and see how people are living their lives and take heart in how great and how much pride we should all have in this county. I mean, look at what we live amongst. It's just pretty amazing. There's so many other ways. Get to know the county employees that you don't necessarily interact with. Ask them how their day is going. Ask them what you can do to mentor them. Mentoring is an underutilized tool in government, and it can help undo bureaucracy, and it can help people take pride in a career in government service. And gosh, that is the greatest feeling in the world, to know that what you're doing for your job, which could span, 20 to 40 years, who knows, that you're doing something that's making your both rural and urban folks in the county feel better, feel more engaged, and live a quality of life. I think that's really important.
Thank you. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Please.
The three most pressing, where did I put my questions? Oops, I buried them. The three areas where the Board of Commissioners could be more effective and how you could make that happen. I apologize.
No worries. So I think that a lot of us, as we've heard the different people up here tonight speak, there's little bits and pieces that everybody's said that we can all agree with, whether it's a candidate for commissioner, DA, or higher level. So one area is, I do agree that, I'm a huge proponent of transparency, especially in the government funds, because it's our money, it's what our taxes are going towards. So I do agree with that. With that said, there's also another area is just really looking at what we're spending the funds on, and does it make sense? Currently, I'm a county employee. I'm aware of certain things that have happened that made 0 sense. The county bought a house to use for commercial purposes. It's zoned residential, so they can't use it for that. So there's a literal house that was bought that the county can't use for what they bought it for. So they bought another house to try to do that again, for a different area. I think that's a huge, oops, to say it as polite as I can. And then, so it's really just like, it's always cheaper, whether you're, I think everyone in this room, whether you're on a budget now or you've been on a budget before, it's cheaper to find a way to save money than it is to, how do I come up with that extra dollar, or however much it is. It's certainly more than $1 on a county budget. But saving money and trying to be, frugal with the funds, because it's taxpayer money. That's the job, is we have to be good stewards of the county funds, because this is, it's not a blank check. This is what people's livelihoods is. Thank you.
I'm going to take the prerogative for your closing statements to reduce that to 1 minute apiece, because I have 3 subjects and questions that if we can extend our time just a bit, we'll get to. So in your closing statements, let's begin with Rick.
I'd like to, first of all, thank Jean Cowan and the Lincoln County chapter of the League of Women's Voters, a great organization. And these other candidates, all of them, including the incumbent, for stepping forward, because you've helped me to think deeply about the issues facing our county. I want to thank all the well-wishers and supporters I've encountered, and finally, the embattled local press, the Oregon Coast Breaking News, the HOTS News, Lincoln City Homepage, Lincoln County Leader, and all the Facebook groups that are out there that bring transparency to our community. As the county commissioner, I will support policies that create jobs and opportunity, the same kind of opportunities I found 30 years ago when there were actually more workers in this county, and when there were more businesses in this county. And I'll oppose the culture of low expectations that moves us from one crisis to the next, from laughingstock COVID policies to tinderbox fire conditions to shocking job losses. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
Going through your day, we got to think about resiliency. We got to think about how we're going to prepare and hedge against climate change and working adaptability strategies for our hardworking fishing folks, the people that work in our forests, and push them to find a different way and to look to keep those profits local. We need to look at electrifying our county transit to lower our footprint. We're looking at full and uncompromising bodily autonomy for all women, not just in the county, but nationwide. That's really important to me as a daughter dad. Employee recognition and mentorship. Tell your people you care about them, you value their time. Property tax fairness, the state conversation needs to happen to make some tweaks to Measure 50, which it's working people and fixed income retirees are struggling under a law that was made in the 90s and is outdated and needs another look. A new, fresh set of eyes. Emergency preparedness, community solar, it can all be done. The county can be the BOC can be the way forward to the next chapter in Lincoln County government. Thank you.
About the January unemployment numbers, I asked you to go to my website or my social media, and I think I've got a few things for you to consider that Mr. Beasley didn't mention. I am deeply committed to this county and to its people. A lot of you know me, and the decision is ultimately yours. Your judgment matters, not mine. These other gentlemen have one vote each. Whether it's been volunteering with nonprofit agencies, reporting the day's news, or sitting in my present chair, your needs, your interests, your values always come first. We have endured a lot of hardships completely out of our control, yet we've endured, survived, and we are now beginning to thrive. Please don't listen to the prophets of doom and gloom. We are well on our way to recovery. Please join me in our journey into a better future together. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate all of your time. I appreciate all the work that went into this. Election's huge. It's a huge part of what makes our country great. I apologize for the camera crew for what I'm about to do, but I do think outside the box. So I am very much just call me. So I'm gonna take advantage of the whiteboard and just put my phone number up. Because I got a minute, so I can write a phone number in a minute. So it's 541. I have horrible writing, so 272-0197. So you can call me, text me, reach out to me on Facebook. I finally joined it because I had to. I've never been a part of it. I've taken classes so that way I can know how to work it. So if I did it wrong, I'm sorry. Again, 541-272-0197. I'm trying to hear from people as I go through. I just have a to-do list. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think whenever I've attended a candidate forum in the past, I've never been a candidate before, but whenever I have, it's always really heavy because you talk about all the issues confronting you all at once. So I want to end on a positive note by saying that, you know, no matter what our issues here, we have an ace in the hole that's incredible. And that's the fantastic, close-knit community that we're all a part of. And I know that with the right leadership in place, we'll be able to confront all of these issues like neighbors. I have the skill set and the experience to get to work solving these issues on day one, and I need your vote to do it. I'd love to keep this conversation going with all of you, so if you have questions for me, if you'd like to know more about my priorities for office, especially all the things we didn't get to talk about today, you can reach out to me via my website, votedongomez.com. That's Vote Don Gomez, which is what I hope you'll do. Or voted on Gomez, which is what you'll tell your friends you did after you send your ballot in. Thank you. And I'd be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you 3 questions, subjects that I know that this county is very interested in, and they could all take about 10, 20, 30, 45 minutes to talk about. And I'm not gonna give it. So, just a minute or so of how you feel about these 3 particular issues that I know are important to people. And I think for the first one, we'll just start at this end and go down. What can Lincoln County Commissioners do to address the impacts of climate change? They're simple questions.
Well, I want to say this, that I am an outdoors person. I hunt and I fish Lincoln County. I've done that for the last 30 years. And I'm concerned about climate change. I'm concerned about the environment. And I'll do everything I can to ensure that Lincoln County is at the forefront of climate remediation. I think we've got a long way to go in terms of conservation. That would be helpful. We are hundreds of miles from the sources of our power here. We're literally at the tail end of the planet, and there's a lot of work to be done. But short, I'm not going to be in favor of a nuclear power plant, I'll tell you that. So, thank you.
All right, so climate change. So over half a decade ago, our Board of Commissioners was presented with a draft climate action plan that looked at carbon neutrality in Lincoln County by 2035. They punted on it. They passed. So when you look at climate change and its impact on Lincoln County, our 3 main industries, tourism, timber, and fishing, all rely on our environment. So if we don't make moves toward environmental sustainability, those industries can see a downturn that'll make 2008 look like the good times. We need leaders who are committed to climate sustainability and to fighting the ravages of climate change by embracing challenges such as getting us to carbon neutrality by 2035, and I'll do that for you. Thank you.
So as a native Oregonian, I've always heard, and it's true, and everybody here in this room knows it, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Climate change is real, because we went from, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, and that was rain or sun. Somehow we went to, we get snow in 70 degrees a week apart. That's crazy. So I'm just saying that to say that, climate change is real. It's definitely affecting us here on the coast. And one thing that we really need to do is just work with our, because logging is a huge part of our community. I'm a small tract forest owner myself, because I love having the trees and nature be my neighbors. I'll joke with my coworkers that, I'm like Snow White or Cinderella or something, because my morning commute is little birds and bunny rabbits. So, I just like to have fun. But in reality, in seriousn's, we do need to make sure that we do keep up with sustainable forestry habits. It's a huge part of our world. It's part of our economy. If you see the papers, mills are getting closed down. That's a lot of jobs. That's huge impact. That's affecting all of us. Whether you work in that industry or not, it's more important than what a lot of people think with that ripple effect. Beyond that, we do need to look at how we can work towards being carbon neutral. That is something important. We need to make sure that we do have clean water, because we all drink the water that's what we shower in. And if you don't think you do, you still went to a restaurant and they gave you the tap water, even if you have a fancy filter at home. So I think it's not one answer. It's looking at multiple areas and doing what we can with realistic timelines. Thank you.
Claire?
Climate change is real. I think any thinking person today knows that. It is the existential threat to our times. Yes, the Mid-Coast Watershed Council did develop an excellent plan in 2018. Last year, we partnered with Benton County, our neighbors to the east, and have developed a new plan, which we have adopted. Now the real work begins, implementation. And I'll say that's all.
Gene, I heart this question. Thank you so much. Right up my alley here. We can build smart. We need code updates in county building code to allow people to do gray water diversion and make solar less bureaucratic. We need to embrace the NESCON model that our Department of Land Conservation started talking about structured retreat. It's in a shelf at the DLCD board office in Salem. There's a lot of opportunities to try test projects for that. Enforce existing law on industrial forest lands. That's a big one. Embrace the research hub that is Hatfield, right down the street. There are so many brains down there that are way smarter than I'll ever be. They can find policy and mesh with science to get a good economic outcome. The Central Lincoln's already, at the city, we helped fund a line across the reservoir to make a plug and play for both ends of the city and the county to have more resiliency. The ice storm is an example of why that project is so important. Regional efforts need to be scaled up to bring counties in, do regional buy-in for climate change funding. Carbon storage, if that's where all our carbon is in this county, a lot of it is in wetlands. We protect them, like I've been on the estuary management plan update. We're doing lots of good stuff for the wetlands. As a ranger, I see beach narrowing as a real impact of climate change every day. There's some sections of beach you can't walk at high tide anymore. So it's here, let's do something about it. In this county, we need structured and well-funded wildfire risk reduction and mitigation strategies. All around the county, we're vulnerable. Let's think about our rural neighbors and find ways to get small grants and monies to them to help them trim their brush and be more prepared and more resilient as we get longer and drier summers and especially drier autumns. And what you can do is volunteer for all of our great county nonprofits. Get involved, do something, spread the word. Get a shovel. I can teach you how to dig a ditch. I'm an expert. Thank you.
Hey, all right. Okay, we are at the end of our hour. If everybody's okay with it, we'll go just a few more minutes. Is that okay, Dave? All right. So let's keep these fairly brief answers. Where do you stand on the use of herbicides, spraying in both aerial and ground-based over clear-cut timberland? Let's start on the opposite end and work back. You can do it.
Well, I voted for I'm a member of the Lincoln County Community Rights Group, and I did vote for the overturn of the aerial spray ban. Now, herbicide use is nuanced, it's complicated, and there's a lot of science involved. However, there is research also that says that there's harm to it when it gets into, obviously, we want to avoid drinking water sources. We want to tighten up those buffers and make them real and enforceable so that we're not harming wildlife, we're not creating more of a problem by aerial spraying the Scots broom and gorse and things that the foresters are trying to kill in the first place. So it takes a combination of updating policies, enforceability in state forestry, and bringing in the best and latest research that has the least environmental impact. That's really the way forward.
Thank you. Claire.
Personally, I oppose aerial spraying. The county, however, as many people have learned over the last few months, has absolutely no legal authority to regulate spraying and use of herbicides in any way. But that doesn't mean we will walk away from the issue. We won't. I personally am willing to meet with local groups and advocates. Perhaps we can craft a proposal that will pass muster in Salem. That's going to be a tough job. The industry is very strong in Salem, but I believe we can and should make the effort. Thank you.
So, as Commissioner Hall just mentioned, it has been before the courts. The judges have decided on it. So, sadly, regardless of what any of us say, the judges already had the word and they get the last word. With that said, what we can focus on is trying to ensure that our water is as clean as possible, because not only is there concerns from the foresters doing aerial spray, but there's people doing residential chemicals, there's vehicles, there's a lot of other ways that chemicals are getting into our waters. It's harder to deal with the habitat and waters for the forest creatures, but what we can focus on is trying to make sure that we have the best filtration systems possible to deal with these contaminants for our drinking waters through our water districts across the county. Thank you.
Done?
So I stand with Lincoln County residents who overwhelmingly voted in favor of local control over aerial spraying. And it's really disappointing to see that ballot measure overturned when it's clearly the will of the people. But I think our county has a fantastic opportunity to work within what's called the Association of Oregon Counties. This is the legislative arm of Oregon County government. And each legislative session, the Association of Oregon Counties puts forth a slate of legislative priorities. And what I would like to see, because I have experience in legislative advocacy, is me going to Salem to say, hey, we need to address the Forest Practices Act and instill more local control over how spraying is done, especially because it's impacting our watersheds. It's impacting our quality of life through our water. So we need to be able to say what's good and what's bad on our own terms. And I would like to see more spraying being done in ground-based applications. I would like to see more botanical and non-chemical methods being used. I understand that these methods are more expensive because they require more frequent spraying, but when it comes to our health and safety, the health and safety of our pets, and the health and safety of our water, it's just not negotiable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that if I have the opportunity to retire the incumbent, I intend to appoint Ryan Parker as my czar of climate change.
You got it.
The truth is that Lincoln County is beset on all sides by threats to our environment, tourism and fishing industries, and ultimately our livability. I have the spine. What you're seeing before you is somebody who has the spine to stand up to the offshore energy schemes and the diplomatic savvy to work with our local logging companies to protect our watersheds. Ultimately, we should not have to buy our way into clean water. This is something that we will work with Mr. Anderson on and our legislators to create the laws that protect our watersheds. And as far as the application of herbicides, I believe we should be doing it by backpack. That just gives the opportunity to hire more people, but we can't do away with them. These, in fact, to grow good, strong trees, timber companies need to apply this, but it can be done in a way that doesn't impact our livability. I am our city's representative to the Mid-Coast Watershed Council, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. One last question. Briefly. We talked a lot tonight about housing and challenges relating to it, but so far no one has touched on the comments about short-term rentals and the restoration of neighborhoods as opposed to short-term rental dwellings. There are folks who are very interested in where the board stands on that kind of an issue. So this time I'm going to start in the middle with Ty, go down to the left, my left, and then finish it down to the right.
So it's a very hot button topic. when it comes to short-term rentals, it's not a all yes, it's not a all no. Yes, having short-term rentals does impact having houses or having homes that are available for other people to rent and buy and live in for long-term. But on the other hand of that, short-term rentals does create jobs. I can't think of how many people that I've met and worked with across this county who require and rely on short-term rentals as their way of making a living. It provides a flexible way of them being able to be a single parent and get their kids to school but still earn a decent income. It's not an all yes, it's not an all no. I do like the idea of having it broken up as far as having it separated by different areas. So that way the individual communities can decide what is right for them. I think what a lot of people forget is that the individual city councils across Lincoln County do already have different rules in place as far as what's allowed in their area. From Waldport having it be completely open to Lincoln City where they have designated zones. It's a complicated solution. It's a complicated solution to a complicated question, but it can't be an all yes, it can't be an all no. There's already been hundreds of thousands spent on in the courts with lawyers trying to fight this issue. I'd also like to see, when it comes to that, the mediation, so that way we can try to resolve it a bit sooner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don?
So there's currently 495 licensed short-term rentals in the unincorporated areas where the county has purview. And part of the way that this got away from us is because between 2008, when Airbnb became a thing, which is arguably the progenitor of the vacation rental phenomenon, and 2018, our Board of Commissioners failed to pass any kind of regulation to protect our neighborhoods from this phenomenon. And this is even as short-term rentals became a thing in other jurisdictions and other areas, and they could have looked to see what was being done and how that situation was evolving in those other areas. And the truth is, up until 2022, when another ballot measure was unfortunately overturned, that one would have allowed us to get local control back. But it was too late already. We'd told these people they could operate this business, and the land use board ruled that they had the right to do it. So what we need to do, I think, is accept that for the time being, this industry is a part of our community, and we need it to be a net positive for our community. Now, in July of 2023, the Board of Commissioners increased their licensure and inspection fees because it was found that the fees that they were charging previously weren't even keeping up with the cost of code enforcement. So that was a gross oversight. I think we need to take the tact of communities like, for instance, Indio, California, which is charging upwards of $1,700 for a new application and $1,500 for renewal and $350 for those inspections. And that's more than double what we're charging right now, but we could really use that money in a lot of different areas. And I think that as our Board of Commissioners seeks to fulfill the will of county residents, that we need to make sure that that industry works for us, and that's going to be the happiest outcome between people in a very lucrative industry and the will of county residents. Thank you.
Good. The single biggest failure of the Lincoln County Commission in memory is the loss of the vacation rental market, the mishandling of this valuable asset, which amounts in revenue to the county to almost $6 million a year. And in the incumbents' own postings, that revenue is already down 25%. And it's going to go farther than that. It's going to continue to drop. And you can't do that. You just can't lose millions of dollars. If we lose $2 million a year over the period of one term of a commissioner, that's $8 million but it'll be more than that. So we have to figure out ways to restore that revenue. We can't afford to lose revenue. As far as housing goes, and let me say this about the VRD issue. This is one area of tourism that's absolutely fantastic if it's managed well, which is what the county should have been doing. It is invisible, and it doesn't bother the neighbors. You just don't see it, you don't hear it. It's a wonderful end of the market. But I would like to say this about housing. We need to have worker housing in this county. We need to have a finance program. It just can't be all about government coming in and dominating the building industry and the housing industry. It takes too much property off of out of the tax rolls, and it doesn't do anything to set up workers into their own home, which is the very beginning of the amassing of wealth in our lives. And we need to open up that to everybody. Not everybody wants to live in an anthill, and we can do better. Thank you.
Well, even though some of my opponents seem to think the three commissioners are in absolute lockstep on every subject, this is a case where that wasn't true. I was the first commissioner to respond to what was a steadily escalating number of calls from the Gleneden Beach, Lincoln Beach area. They asked me to attend community meetings. I did. I listened and learned. I then had to persuade my colleagues to come on board. And frankly, Commissioner Hunt needed a good hard shove, and Commissioner Thompson had to be dragged into this, kicking and screaming. But we did adopt a licensing and regulatory program in 2018. There were some things that I didn't like, and I think we're making some revisions. The big thing was establishing the areas and the area caps last year. As mentioned, this year, we doubled the fees, which more realistically reflects the cost of our licensing and enforcement program. We also put more teeth into our code enforcement program. Maximum fees are higher, and for the first time, there's the option of daily fines. So I think we have to continue on this path. I think we have to have further community conversations about how neighborhoods and the industry can coexist and what kind of path we want to be on in the future. Thank you.
So a couple years ago, it fell to me on the city council to pick a number for the Nye Beach overlay zone and how many licenses there were. And I believe in compromise, but I don't believe in one extreme or the other. And so I got rid of 75 licenses off the top. Now, in hindsight, should that number have been higher as far as how many licenses were taken off the books? Probably. But I recognize that large party houses like you see at Rhodes End and Bayshore are neighborhood disruptors. And as a working person, I would certainly not want to live next to some sort of disruption like that. And I think that's the spirit of what the county's been doing. Now, my concern always leans environmental, because I want an environment for my kids to thrive, and not just environmentally, but economically. The septic inspection thing is a problem for me. I think we need to bolster a way to make sure these septic systems aren't leaking sewage from, I'm not hip, but I heard there's a thing where they drive in from all over and have a big party. I don't get those invitations. But that causes overflow. It's a problem in Tillamook County, especially on the beach too, and it's hard for code enforcement to keep up. So I think structural reform and industry-paid enforcement, I think, is a way forward. And then we'll revisit how everything's litigated. I've gotten a lot of feedback about concerns about how much litigation money is being spent, because that is public. But I do feel, like I said, that industry-funded enforcement and a better, robust, industry-paid septic inspection system is important. And then just thinking about zoning and building permits in the future, about how these larger houses designed as VRDs, if that stands in court, which I hope it does because that was the will of the people, then how do you deconstruct those big houses and turn them into maybe multifamily or something to make use of those footprints to provide more units for everyone?
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for their patience and for sitting here listening all evening long, and to thank the candidates, all of whom are still here. We really appreciate your time and your input. We have some big choices ahead of us. This is one of the races that, should one individual get more than 50% of the vote, 50% plus one, will be decided in May. Your ballots will come out about the 1st of May. Should that not happen, then the top 2 vote getters will continue on until the fall. I would remind you, if you have any more questions, to take a look at 411.org. Registration for your voter registration it closes on the 30th of this month. And Georgia?
I just want to remind everybody that the 2 county-wide measures, one for the library and one for OCCC, will be decided at the primary.
Yes.
So your primary vote is very important.
As will 3 other localized measures, which
Right.
you can find in the city of Newport, Glen Eden Sanitary District, and somebody's rural fire, Depot Bay Rural Fire Department District, I think. If you should have changed your address since the last election, that needs to be corrected on your voter registration by the 30th. Thank you all for coming.